I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three black moms.
One of the most exciting things after you've had a baby is when they start to talk. Past the baby cooing and those little noises that they make, they learn to say words. And you're excited when they first say mama, dada, or whatever is the first thing that they say. You are just ecstatic and you want everyone to hear your child talk. Well, as times have changed, educators are giving us warnings on what can hinder your toddler from learning speech and saying words. And amazingly, one of the things that educators say is that too much screen time for your child will actually inhibit and impede their speech. And they recommend no screen time for a child up to 9 years old. That's right, I did say 9. Well, we know that that probably isn't going to happen, but some of the old school ways still are in effect. If you read to your child, they will learn to speak. And if you sing songs to your child, they will be very quick to speak. And it's not a competition. It's not about, oh, is my child saying as much as my neighbor's child or my friend's child? It's not a competition. But what you want to guard against is talking baby talk to your young toddler because they are saying words in baby talk as they are learning to understand them. And what you want to do is speak clearly and enunciate words clearly so that they gradually pick them up. Now, I remember my twins when they were born, they went through a period of a lot of ear infections. And you need to know that when your child has ear infections, they are losing time of learning speech because their hearing has been impaired while they're on medication or just once again learning how to talk. And it was no shame to take my kids to a speech therapist where they had speech therapy every week until they learned how to say clearly the words that they had missed during the time that they were having ear infections. That's something that new moms need to know and recognize. And another thing I want to say before I pass this on to my sisters and their experiences is that my twins had their own language. This is a very normal twin thing where they are talking, they are saying words to each other that you, the parent, can understand, but they understand each other. And that's no cause for alarm either because they are learning how to communicate. Sisters, what are your tips on teaching our toddlers how to speak, learn words, and communicate?
Well, let me start out here. Um, when I went online when we had talked about doing this on baby talk, and I first found an article that said, "Oh no, you shouldn't use baby talk for your babies." And then I looked at the date of that, and that was 2009. Well, conventional wisdom has changed, and actually, speaking baby talk, and I'm going to be very clear on this, to your infant is very good. That natural, long, high pitched sound that moms make, and sometimes dads, and the songs and the sing songy voices, all of those things are teaching your baby how language works and how to communicate. And so there is there are studies that show that baby talk is actually good for your child, but when they get to a certain age, when they become toddlers and they are enunciating, it is important. I'll agree with you, Barbara. It is very important to enunciate what you're saying, even if they can't. I remember one of my favorite stories when Sarah was little. She was just learning how to talk really, really well. She was like between 18 months and 2 years old, and she was trying to say she wanted a bagel, but because she knew the word, but she didn't have the speech to say it, and she said, "I want a Beto." And I kept saying, "A what?" And she said, a Beto. And I had to like search what she had ever had that she wanted. And I said, "A bagel?" And she says, "Yes." Like, "Are you stupid?" And then she said, "And I want cheese on it." She wanted a bagel with cream cheese. But it was because she couldn't, because I had enunciated the words, she knew the word, even if her tongue hadn't developed enough to say it. So when they're babies and you're doing the little funny words and the songs, they're getting the language, but then you kind of do a gradual switch where you're doing a you're having conversations. You're talking to them all the time. You're singing, and I don't care how bad you sound when you sing, because my husband is not the greatest singer, let me say, but he would sing to her, and he taught her how to do her numbers by singing "This Old Man," and and he's never sung that since, or but I would just listen to him singing that to her, and she learned her all of her how to count to 10 that way. And there are things like that that you can teach your child, and they're learning all kinds of things. But as they grow, your language needs to grow, especially if you're teaching. And I know we had talked about teaching them more than one language. And kids, their brains are very elastic. They will learn two or three languages at a time. They may start to get some of them mixed up, but eventually they know this one goes with this one, and this one goes with this one. So, eventually they'll get there. They will get there.
And
So,
the cool thing is that when your children live in neighborhoods that are more diverse, they will pick up the language of their friends so
yes,
quickly. I mean, all of my grandchildren speak two languages. Their parents speak two languages. Well, actually, my daughter-in-law speaks five languages, and but the children pick up those languages very quickly and interact with their friends just as it's so normal and
yes,
easy for them.
yes,
Yes. Well, what you say about talking baby talk. Now, there's the tone of voice that you use when you're talking
right,
to a baby. There's a there's a tone that you use when you talk to babies that is very kind and cutesy and everything. But it's still important to let them hear you. Like Barbara was talking about, when they have an ear infection and their language uh it's kind of stunted for a while, because the way you learn language is by hearing.
right,
And so if you hear words like, oh, because they're imitating everything they hear, that's how they
right,
learn.
Yeah.
right.
So you want to, even though it's baby talk, you still want to enunciate
Exactly,
and
exactly. You're
and
using real words. If
using
you're
real words.
starting, if you're starting to call a bottle a baba, because that's what they call it,
No, call it
I
a
never
bottle.
did that. And people would
Yeah,
say, "Oh, does she want a baba?" I know she wants a
she wants a
bottle.
bottle,
And you
because
would
they
say
they
what the
say
word is.
right, because they're saying things just like every muscle is developing. The lips, the tongue, those muscles are developing. So they need to see what you're doing with your teeth and tongue and lips so they can imitate it. And so instead of you imitating them, let them imitate you. They're trying to figure out, how am I moving my mouth to make this sound? So yeah, Baba might be, they're trying to coordinate bottle, and you don't have teeth yet, all of that. Yeah, it's going to come out Baba. But we got teeth, so we need to say it. So
Yes.
as they get their teeth, they will know how to work the teeth and the lips and the tongue to make the sounds. That's all it is.
I've
So
got another concept too.
yes,
If you can, and if you have this talent, I wish I had the talent. I only know a few words in sign. You can teach them to sign.
That
yes,
is,
Because
yes,
if
that's
they learn how to sign,
yes,
a lot of times when they don't have the language, they can say more. If you're saying, do you want some more? Maybe they can't say more, but they can sign that. And a lot of
Right.
times with children, I know that they use that for children who have disabilities, like with Downs, and obviously with kids who are deaf, they learn. But you are also,
or nonverbal children.
or nonverbal
Yes.
children, and that is a way for you to learn another language yourself,
Right.
American Sign
Right.
Language, but also because sometimes they can get the word, they can sign the word for milk maybe before they can say the word for milk. They
Yes.
can sign these words because the more you've used them, and you've used them with that. So there's all kinds of ways we can uh teach our children how to articulate what they need. And we have
Right.
to just use our imaginations. As Americans, I think we're very lazy in that we don't encourage more than one language. And a lot of times by the time children get to, maybe they'll get it for the first time in sixth grade. Well, that's really, they're 12 by then, and
Unbelievable.
they've
Yeah,
lost 12 years of
it's
learning
harder.
how to speak. It's a little hard. It's not
It
impossible,
is.
but because people can learn languages at any age, but so it's not impossible, but it's harder because your brain goes a different way. And as we get older, we start thinking, okay, well, why is it this way instead of that way? In Japanese, the verb comes at the end of the sentence, so you have to learn the whole phrase. If you spend time as an adult thinking, well, why is it this way, you're not going to learn it. But
Right. Just hear and imitate.
you're,
And
yeah,
I was just telling our cousin how I'm studying Chinese because I have a friend who will be working on some business deals together, and she's from China. And she wants us to work with some of the businesses in China. I said, well, I already have a translator. My niece works there. She's already done this for me, so I know uh, she could assist me in that. But just in going online and learning a few phrases, how to say hi, how are you, my name is Naima, and all of that. What you do basically, you just hear and repeat, and that's how children learn. And I'm developing a language course based on a new concept. It's probably not new, but I don't think anybody else has explored it, because there is one universal language we all use unconsciously, and that is telepathy. You know what your child wants before they can speak, and they know to let you know they're in distress before they can
even when
speak.
they cry, people
You
Yes,
will
you
tell
learn to
understand.
you,
read, and you've also learned to read their body language. But
yes,
getting back
Yeah.
to teaching them how to speak, one of the elements that is extremely helpful is reading to them.
yes,
And it
Yeah.
also increases that intelligence. These are one of the things that used to amuse me about my husband. He would teach Lavinia when she was the only child before the other two were born. He would teach her big words. Now we would have neighbors that would kind of judge him, like, "Why are you teaching her to say those words? She doesn't know what they mean." And my husband would say, "Yes, she does, because I told her." And it was just
That's it.
amusing to see this little 3-year-old using the vocabulary of a professor, because that's what Eric liked to do. And then, of course, when you have an older sibling that comes along with younger siblings, they teach them all of that vocabulary too. It's really kind of fun, which is why a parent should be aware that sometimes the younger siblings will learn language a little slower, no problem in that, but sometimes the older sibling will do a lot of speaking for them. They will point, and the older sibling will say what they want. So, as a parent of more than one, it is really important to be willing to talk with the other siblings individually and encourage them also to speak for themselves.
Well, that's a
also,
good point. But
al-
also you do learn as a younger sibling. That's how I learned Spanish at what, 4 years old, because you all were studying it in school, and I
I was
imitated
studying
every.
it, yeah, I was
Yeah.
studying it, and then I would come home because they taught us Miss Clark. She was Miss Clark. She was my
Hmm.
Yeah.
first grade
I could
teacher.
count to 10 in Spanish at 4.
Yeah, and Mama would say, yeah, and you'd come home and you would teach you, because
Hmm.
you were my baby sister. And
Yeah.
so of course you and that's how kids, the next kids, they learn these things. And so it's funny, and I was going to say that because kids will teach the other ones, And I
Right.
know Trevor Noah, who speaks like 5 languages, he would say,
Yeah.
well, you try to get the accent first, and then you learn the language, and that helps you get the language. Now, I found out, and don't ask me a whole lot of vocabulary on Japanese now, but when I went to Japan 30 some years ago, before I went, I spent about a year learning the language. And was I fluent? Absolutely not. But I learned enough so that when I tried, people are nicer to you.
They are. They are.
They because they
I had that
understand
experience
that
in
you are
Japan. Yes.
trying.
Yeah.
And even now, we're planning on a trip to Portugal this summer, and I had said to, and my husband knows someone from Portugal, and I was talking to a dance friend who's also from Portugal, and I said, should I learn Portuguese? And she says, oh, you don't have to. Everybody there speaks English. And so did Sean's friend, said the same thing. But
Mm,
I want to learn a little bit, even so,
yeah.
because I have people who come to my house and I would say bon dia, because to say good morning to them,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
just and you should see how people light up when you speak to them in their language,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
they will be helpful to you because you are making the effort. And I think sometimes in this country we get very angry. Now, not me, because I get it. I think English is the hardest language to learn. But some people say, "Oh, you're here. You need to speak English," and they're angry. But you could understand how, if you went to their country and you started just yelling in English like that's going to help,
Yeah.
that
They're
would
not
make
gonna
them angry
understand.
too. So,
Yes.
it's a part of the human condition to want to be understood.
Yeah.
And
And
you are invested in that person when they
yes,
feel that investment. If you just know even a few words of their
yes,
language, you
Just a
yes,
have
few.
made them a person in your eyes and not a stranger, not an other, not a, immigrant, even if they
yes,
are. You have, on a basic level, become a friend to that person.
yes,
Right.
yes.
Right.
And they will help you. They
They
will
will
help
help.
you.
Even if
They,
you just know one word. Like I
yes,
remember when Atala Shabazz, who is the daughter of Malcolm X, and Betty Shabazz, she came to Zykia School, where her school is named after Betty Shabazz, so her daughter came there to speak to the students. And she said something that stuck in my mind forever. She said, because she travels a lot abroad, and she said, if you don't know how to say anything else, know how to say thank you. Always
Yeah.
express gratitude. So she said, I know how to say thank you in 33 different languages. I'm like, wow. So that really impressed me. So every morning on my radio TV show, The Female Solution, we greet people in 16 different languages. And then at the end of the show, we say thank you in 16 languages. And I figure, well, if you hear this every day, if you don't know how to say anything else, you know how to give a greeting, and you'll know how to say thank you, at
yes,
least in
yes,
16 different languages.
yes,
And one of the things that I was saying, like with the language learning and learning multiple languages, is it you first, like you say, you start out with the accent. Actually, the way you learn language, you start out with the feeling. What does the word feel like? If you are,
yes,
like, you
yes,
feel like you want to greet somebody, well,
yes.
you start out with sending the feeling, and then you express the sound, and
You're
then all
sending out
all
your
your senses,
vibe. You're sending out your
you're
vibe.
And
sending
it
out your
shows up
vibe.
in your face too.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
And then what happens is, like the way children learn language, you associate the feeling with the sound. So that's how you can learn multiple languages at the same time. If hola means the same thing as hi or bonjour, I mean, if all of those means I'm greeting you with friendliness, then your
In
brain
that
will
tone.
associate the feeling with the sound, and you can be
yes.
learning all the different languages simultaneously. That's how children learn, and that's how they learn so quickly.
So
And the
tell me,
reason why,
sisters, how do you deal with a child that has said a curse word or a word that isn't allowed? They heard it from somewhere or they wouldn't be repeating it.
It's very important that you respond appropriately, because words are words, and
words
they're children.
are a lot of things. And the thing is
And
that if you start out getting angry, either they will and so for some kids, any attention is good. Negative is like, there's no
right,
such thing as bad publicity. There's only publicity.
right,
And for some kids, any attention, even if it's negative attention, uh gives
it's
them power.
encouraged.
It
Right,
gives them power.
It-
So
you
if they say
encourage.
a bad word, you might want to just say, you know what? I think that there's a better way of saying that. That's not a real nice word for us to
Yeah,
say.
Yeah.
So
right.
let's say something else, and I think you can explain it in a way rather than getting angry or worse, sometimes laughing.
Yeah,
If
if you
you
laugh, then
laugh,
that's really encouragement.
they
Oh,
will
that's funny. Let me
continue
say it again.
because they're looking for your approval anyway. And
Right.
so if
Yeah.
you laugh at, and you may just laugh because you're really shocked that this little
Yeah. This came
it's
out of
the
this little
F
book.
word or something like that. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, now we just put it on Instagram or whatever,
Yeah.
or TikTok because
We
we're
don't have good sense.
stupid. Another not nice word, but but understand, like, instead of like interrogating where you hear that, just say, oh, yeah, I don't think that's a very nice word for you to say. Let's not use that word. Let's use another word. And don't overreact, don't underreact, don't laugh. And I think that that will help you, because then when they say it again, it says, "Oh, remember we said that's not a nice
We're
word.
gonna say
Don't
that.
Right.
use
Yeah.
that word."
Yeah. Let's not
And
say that.
because repetition is learning.
Right.
Um,
And the thing is, when they're learning words, they just repeat what they hear. So if you respond as if they did something intentionally outrageous or intentionally bad, you just confuse a child, because they don't know what a bad word is, a good word is. They just know it's a word. And I had this incident. You know, my daughter at 2, she had of course been babysat by her grandparents, and we know our parents. We love our parents, but
oh, we know what
she
they used to say.
she dropped something. I think she dropped her milk cup and went, oh, the S word. And like, I know who says that when they spill something or drop something. I knew where it came from, and I said, oh well. And like you said, Barbie said, well, that's sure, you both said
Let's
that's
say
not a
something else.
nice word. You want to say something else to express your disappointment, but don't say that word, because that's not a nice word. I mean, she was like, oh, okay, but I didn't make a big deal out of it. But I did, ask her grandparents to be a little mindful of what they say in her presence. And of course, they didn't remember saying it, because it's one of them automatic things you don't even think about.
And you
Right.
forget. And let me tell you something. When we talk about teaching your child to talk, understand that they're listening all the time. We talk
All the
about it.
time.
We talk
They're
about
not
our
looking at.
FBI agent that is on our phone that listens to everything, all the data
Mhm.
mining. Your children are your first data miners. They
Right.
listen to every single thing you say. I always tell people, if you don't want them to hear you, act like you're talking right to them. Because
Yes.
when
And
you're
then, yeah.
talking to everyone else or on the phone or something like that, understand what they used to have say is little pictures have big ears.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And so they're listening. So when you're teaching them, you're not. And also be careful what you say if you're gossiping, because they'll turn around and they'll say
Oh,
They
else,
will
yes.
and
repeat
you don't
stuff that
They
even,
you
will
said
repeat
in
it
company that you did
in
not
mass.
want to hear.
because people say,
That
oh,
is not me gossiping, but
oh yeah, and they say, oh, they don't even understand what we're talking about. Whether they
no,
understand it or not,
They
they
will
it doesn't
repeat it.
matter.
Right.
They're
And
repeating it,
that's the
and
thing.
now you're in trouble.
Yeah, because your child done told all your business that you had no business saying in their presence anyway.
yes.
But that's the thing. Do not punish your child if they say something or they repeat something that you didn't want repeated, or they say a not nice word, they say a cuss word, they say, a vulgarity, whatever they say. Never punish them for words. What you want to do is redirect them and
Yes.
explain. Now, I did this silly thing in
And
my student.
we're talking toddlers and by the time they're teens and tweens and that kind of stuff, they
Yeah,
know what
they
they're
know what
saying.
they
They
shouldn't
know
say,
you
better.
know
but
but
you
we're
know what.
talking language. Even then.
Even then, because I've had high school students, and the policy is you're not supposed to use profanity. But if everybody in your midst talks this way, you're not even conscious that you're saying stuff.
You
So
are
my
not.
students would say something, and I would go up and whisper in their ear, and everybody know they're being reprimanded because I'm so noticeable. But I would say, "Now, do you really want me to know that that's how your mother talks to you at home?" And they were, what I say? And then I'd repeat what they said. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Not
One
conscious.
day I did this assignment where I put all the cuss words on the board, and then I said, we're going to come up with some alternative words to use than this. And they're like, oh, what if the principal come in and she gonna see all that? I said, no, I'm teaching, it's okay. Yeah, she'll be shocked, but I'm
there's a reason why we say shut the front door.
Yes.
Right.
So, I came up with alternatives, okay.
Oh,
Instead
my
of the A
word.
we're going to use adipose tissue, instead of saying the, other thing. We're going to use excrement instead of that S word. I mean, and they just laughed and laughed and laughed. But, the whole school ended up doing that. Get that excrement out of here. I mean, they just laugh and laugh and laugh, but they learn.
But it also improves their vocabulary.
Yes.
Talk about an articulate child.
Yes. So I think when children are learning and they're, like you say, they're listening even when they're not paying any attention to you, and they're repeating what you say, you always want to encourage them to express themselves. And if they say something angry and use one of those angry words that we've been taught, or naughty words, still remind them that there's a better way to say it, and don't punish them if they say something outrageous because they heard it from an adult.
They did.
Yes.
Or an older sibling or something.
Or an older sibling.
Yeah.
Or neighbor.
And no, you can't punish the older sibling either.
No, you can't, because they heard it from you. So
yeah, because they heard it from you.
Take responsibility for what you've been teaching your children. And when it comes to language, and I love what Eric, I love his philosophy, because children will learn whatever you teach them. So there is no word that's too big, and you want them to know as many words as possible, because the more words they know, the better they can express themselves.
By the time I was 5 years old or something like that, I could spell encyclopedia.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'll reiterate before we close, read to your children. I mean, it's so easy, we're so used to, that, like Barbara, you were saying about the tablets and the screen time, and it's different from like them watching TV for way too long. It's like we give them tablets or our phones for them to play games with, or to occupy them for a lot longer before those things existed. We do that, you go to a restaurant, and you see the kids sitting there with a tablet because you want them to be quiet, so they're watching cartoons or whatever, Yes, sometimes you can't limit their screen time, but you can monitor what they're watching. And if you can get something where they can learn to read, or you're reading to them, they are going to be developing a love of the language, because that helps them too, rather than just watching,
Right. Get something interactive, because they have a lot of good children's programs.
I love games, things like that. Those are all good games.
Yeah.
Well, we've got to go. If you have a toddler or someone who is just learning how to speak, follow these tips, and remember to watch what you say, because your children sure are, and they're listening and repeating.
and waiting to embarrass you.
Yes. So we've got to go. Remember to like and subscribe us on Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and join us again next week, same time. Until then, I'm Naima.
I'm Cheryl.
I'm Barbara. We are 3 Black moms. Bye. I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're 3 Black moms.